Oh, we are live. Welcome to FAWKES News. I'm here without Josh. Josh had surgery. That's my producer. We got a big show for you today. Nicholas Tartagilone, the man in the cell with Epstein. And this is kind of a story that's resurfaced thanks to social media. And I want to just be really clear with everybody. This is a live show. Nightkin, folk around and find out. Low rent. Thank you guys for being in live chats. I see it's starting to fill up there. Tyler S. Thank you guys. Listen, today's a little low rent. There's a little bit of different show today for you boys and girls because if you've been following on my Instagram, the book is 19 days out. The book is 19 days out. And so a lot of things are happening in my life. I've got rid of both of our big sponsors, Factor and Ghostbed, just for this fourth quarter season, because I can't guarantee a show on time every week for the next 90 days because of the book tour. But I'm getting to meet all these cool people. I'm getting to have awesome guest opportunity. I was just texting Ben Owen. And so I think I'm lining him up as a guest. That's really great. So you guys already saw that we had Tyler Gray. I'll be with AJ Buckley in 2 weeks. Next week, I'm with Andy Stumpf. So a lot of great opportunities coming down the pipeline. However, I have been traveling so much and doing yesterday I was in the studio. I'm about to show you this video. You guys are going to love it, whatever. So I'm not as in the news as I should be. And with Josh having surgery this week, I thought this would be a little bit more fun to do today. So if you're tuning into this show for the very first time, typically this is our long formatted news show. It's live. It's on Wednesdays. I'll do shorter ones during the week typically. And I'll usually have a co-host on here with Jason from One More and I'm Outta Here podcast. Josh from Dead Lake Media is usually with me. But today, I'm going to do this all by myself because, of course, his surgery, but Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have been subpoenaed. And this has to do with some Epstein stuff. And we're going to talk about that here shortly. But there's a bigger story that has kind of resurfaced. It's a story that we've talked about years ago on this show. And I just don't think I think it's worth going back to. And I don't think it's something we should forget that happened. And I think it's it's probably the most important piece to the Epstein puzzle. I think it's the most important part. And so whenever we're going to talk about Epstein did or didn't kill himself, I feel like once you hear this side of the story, it's almost like you're going to have to give me more than that. You're going to have to give me overwhelming proof. And the justice system, the DOD, has failed to provide evidence that's overwhelming evidence of that. And I know you're like, wow, you must be one of those hyperbolic guys. Let it go. Conspiracy theory. Just wait until you hear the story of Nicholas Tartagilone. And then you tell me that I'm crazy for giving this a 87% chance Epstein killed himself. That's where I'm at on this. 87% chance. Is there a chance that all this stuff that the stars aligned almost in a immaculate conception? Immaculate conception, is that even a thing? Almost like a Big Bang. This is almost like Big Bang theory for it not to have been a suicide. I mean, for it not have been a murder. It means that this is the stars aligned in such a way that there was an intergalactic explosion. And then all of a sudden, cells were formed in biology and all the science that goes behind that. Does that make sense? Is that crazy? I'm not a science nerd, but I feel like you got to know the Tartagilone story before you can even have really an educated opinion on whether you think he did or did not kill himself. If you don't know this part of the story, I'm going to tell it to you first. But today's show is brought to you by Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story of a former police officer. I woke up this morning, guys. By the way, here's the book. Here's the hardcover. All of the guys that pre-ordered this book that are fans of Failure to Stop and Fox News, you guys are all getting your signed autograph bookmark in the mail this week. I mailed out the first half last week. Second half goes out today. And of course, all the ARC readers, the advanced readers are getting their hard copies, all the influencers. Mandatory Fun Day hit me up today and said, dude, absolutely cannot put this thing down. What in the world? Ben Owen just hit me up and said, Memphis PD, a police officer from Memphis, read the book and is in love with it, really likes the book. And that makes me so happy, especially when a cop likes it. The audio engineer that engineered the audio book, very professional, was just recording with Neil deGrasse Tyson and William Shatner the day before he recorded with me. So like this guy's a big deal. He was in Seattle, I think, in Washington recording with them, and then flew to North Carolina to record with me. This guy was so into the book and so into the project that he invited me pro bono off the books. He said, come to my studio and let's make a trailer day. I'm in town. I'm off. You know, I love the hustle. I love what you did with your jeans ad, the Sydney Sweeney. I did my own version of the Sydney Sweeney ad. And he's like, I think your marketing, your guerrilla style marketing is inspiring. It's funny. It's great. Let's put something together. And so I want to show you before we start today's show, because I'm proud of it. Let me show you what we came up with. So here we go.
I'm en route, 30 seconds out.
The craziest cop story ever told.
Oh, shit. Did you just tase me in the pussy?
Action-packed.
Bam! It completely crushes the driver's side of the cab. If he isn't dead from the crash, he sure as shit is now.
Seductive.
Come here, big boy. You gonna arrest me?
Absolutely hilarious.
She is twerking in my direction. Oh my God, she's shitting on me.
Raw and real.
Raleigh, we need EMS. It looks like our suspect has been shot in the head.
Unhinged.
Man, what am I supposed to do with some motherfucker's leg coming through my ceiling?
Do you want some pizza?
He fucking farted in my goddamn olives.
Redemption.
I take a deep breath and assess the situation. Well, it could be worse. At least I'm not the guy who had a dick on his face.
Narrated by author Eric Tansey. Directed by Grammy nominee Travis Todd. Engineered by Telly Award winner Noel White. Big Latin, the audiobook.
Huh? What do you think of that, right? So the audiobook, we worked so hard on the audiobook, and the director, Travis Todd, and Noel White, the audio engineer, you know, this was something I never expected I would ever do in my life, is produce an audiobook. One, I never thought I would write a book. Two, I never thought I would be the voice of an audiobook. And so I didn't know what went into it. And I had a director and, of course, the producer and engineer, and they would have me get into characters and get into voice, and they would stop me and make me drink honey and tea and help me change my voice and manipulate my voice so we could have characters in the book. And it was very hard and very stressful, because I felt like in the moment, I felt like I wasn't good enough to be there. Like I felt like I was wasting everybody's time. I'm like, I'm not an actor. I'm not the guy you think I am. I think you guys are expecting too much of me, and I'm just disappointing you and letting you down. But that really wasn't the case. He finally, Travis was like, hey, listen, I've done this for, 20 or 30 years. I forgot how long he's done it. And he's got multiple Grammy nominations for audio books and audio stuff. And so he was like, it's an art. It's something that we have to do. You're not going to get it right the first time. That's okay. Like, that's why we're coaching you. Like, just go through the process. You're doing fine. And so I was able to reel it in and kind of put together this. And then by the end, it's probably the one thing I'm more proud of. I'm almost more proud of the audiobook than I am of writing the actual book, just because it was so outside of my wheelhouse and it was so much fun. So if you haven't pre-ordered the book, or if you've pre-ordered the book, but you want the audiobook, I really think this is like a movie for your ears. So if you read the book and then, put the audio in and then listen to it, it's probably going to be two different experiences. It's probably going to be two different experiences, because you're going to read it in your own tone, and then you're going to hear my tone of voice. And what I've heard so far is that, kind of depending on your inner dialogue, is whether the book's funny or not funny, because I'm a storyteller. And so with my inflections, the stories are really funny. And so if you read the stories in your brain and maybe you don't have the same inflections as I do, or the same, you don't know what my voice sounds like, it might not come across as funny as to somebody who knows it. And that's kind of been the general consensus. Those who have never met me, never heard my voice, are like, it was funny, but it was very dark, very serious. Like, I'm surprised that this is a comedy. And then for those of the people that know me are like, this is the funniest thing I've ever read. And I think it's because people read it in my voice. But anyway, today's show is brought to you by Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story. Right now, we are trending top 22 in law enforcement books, and the book's not even out yet. Doesn't come out till August 25th. So pre-order the book, get it done. I'll be on the book tour, and this will all make sense as you're tuning in every Wednesday of why I'm so discombobulated on this podcast, and it's not the news as it used to be. And I don't want to see all the comments and then asking me, I was like, well, this is not what, it's like things have to change and evolve. You want to get big, you want me to get big, you want to be able to afford to do this and hire out everybody. It's so much to do the news, and having to pay every single person that had Jonathan Bates, having to pay Jonathan, having to pay Deadleg, having to play Jason, having to pay all these guys, having to go out and find spots. It's literally a full-time job to do this. And so in order to grow it, I have to do things like this book and this audiobook tour to grow my financials, to then pay people more, to build bigger studios and to get more assets and blah, 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 blah. So just going to have to deal with it. It's called Growing Pains. I'm a very grassroots kind of guy, and I do this because I love it. I don't do it for the money. So I do this because I genuinely love the news, and I like interpreting the news. I like looking at it, the bigger picture, and I like the investigative work that goes into journalism, and it's fun to me. So that's why I do it. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to listen. This is America. We still live in a free-ish country. You don't have to listen. But if you are into the news and you like my take on the news, let's dive in. The biggest topic that's going on right now is, of course, there's some nuclear stuff going on with Russia, also Putin's daughter speaking out. Thinking about touching on all that stuff, but I really wanted to spend the majority of today's podcast on this Nicholas Tartagilone story because I just feel like it is important. But big breaking-ish news is the Clintons are subpoenaed to testify in congressional Epstein investigation. Now, this is kind of a big deal in a few ways. One, obviously, this is coming on the heels of, well, let me just read this from The Guardian. So the Guardian posted something that the Epstein scandal broadens as a trove of letters from famous figures is published. And this was from a New York Times report. So this is coming from The Guardian. The long-running scandal surrounding the disgraced late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein broadened on Tuesday after the New York Times published a trove of previously unseen letters to Epstein from numerous powerful figures, as well as unseen photographs from inside his Manhattan mansions. Now, I've said this from the beginning. I've said this from day one. They absolutely have despised and hated Trump from day one. It's over a decade that we've had to deal with the Trump derangement syndrome. From the assassination attempts, to the Mar-a-Lago raid, to the getting all of the big Trump influencers in 2019 off of the interwebs, crashing our famous Mike the Cop and our Failure to Stop podcast, really just going after anyone that was against the narrative or even remotely pro-Trump. You see what they did to RFK Jr., refusing to give him any platform whatsoever. Joe Rogan, anybody, any celebrity that tried to speak up, any influencer was immediately shut down or fired, or having their personal lives completely persecuted because of politics. If they, I said this from the beginning, so I'm not just coming up with this now. If they had the evidence that Donald Trump was involved with Epstein, and it didn't, and they were able to put that out there in a way that they could get away with it, they would have done so. They would have done so. They would have given you this information. The only way that they won't give this information, or that they will, is if Donald Trump is guilty and they are guilty as well. And so therefore they cannot show you this evidence because it will all link back to them. And so when you have these things coming out, is this Trump saying, yeah, I'm going to burn too, but they're going to burn with me? Are we at that phase of the Epstein conspiracy that we're now, because I've never been convinced that they're not all involved in some way, shape, or form or fashion. Now, I'll also say this. I've ran with some pretty sleazy people. There's a gentleman named the Terrorist Whisperer who I was very good, close friends with. And things just kept coming up about him that were a very negative light that involved women And then all of a sudden in my community and in my town, there were more things that were happening with women. And then the Drinking Bros podcast network, which I worked for and was with, they had complaints that they were being targeted by, lewd text messages or Instagram messages or whatever. I'm not sure. But I had to separate ties with him about a year and a half ago because I believe the people who were telling me these stories of what he did to them versus what I believed him. But now there are pictures of me with him all over the interweb, and I've done podcasts with him, and I've had him on as a guest, and I've been in with his friend. I've dined at his home many times. I have traveled with him. I've done a lot of things with him. I did not know that this was a vice of his. I also would argue that I don't think that these vices really picked up until he started getting this crazy medical treatment that he was getting. That's when I saw a real change in him when they upped his testosterone and everything. But it got to be pretty weird. But now I have pictures with him. I have the stuff going on with the Anti-Hero podcast. I ran with those guys for a while, but I also have pictures of me with Tim Kennedy. I'm not an Anti-Hero podcast guy, and I'm not a Tim Kennedy guy. I'm kind of neutral and all, but I get lumped into a lot of these different things. Just because my co-author is Nick Palmisano doesn't mean I had anything to do with Tim Kennedy's lies. And I think that's audacious. And I've gotten those comments already like, oh, is this another book full of lies? Like my story has nothing to do with Tim Kennedy. And a co-author has nothing to do with the way the co-author worked on Tim Kennedy's book, which was 5 or 6 years previous to mine. But by the way, it's very silly because a co-author doesn't tell your story. He doesn't make up your story. What he does is he corrects your writing. We write the story unless he's a ghost writer, which Nick Palmisano is not a ghost writer. He is a co-author, which he takes your story and he makes it make sense. Makes it like it's not a report. So he doesn't facilitate in the lies. Nick Palmisano would have no idea if Eric Tanzi's book is true or not. Nick Palmisano doesn't go and interview everybody in my book. He didn't pull any of the police reports in my book. That's not his job. He would never get anything done. We would never have a book. The book took 3 years just to do it the way that we did it. Imagine if he had to go and correct it. That's a legal read's job, which I had to go through, a legal read. And then he asked for all the evidence and all the references to my book. And of course, there are police reports and there are things like that kind of help corroborate stories. Just because you run in a crowd with somebody doesn't mean you're guilty of what they're doing. I've said that from the beginning. But also, I wouldn't mind being questioned. I don't mind a detective bringing me in and asking me about my time. I don't mind being transparent about my friendship with the terrorist whisperer. That doesn't bother me. He was a nice gentleman when I was with him. I trusted him around my family. I'll be very open about that. I'll be very transparent that he was my friend. Okay. I got no problems admitting that. I also have no problems admitting that the minute I found out that there was a 51% chance that he could be guilty of the things that these women were alleging, I immediately cut ties with him and I told him that I could no longer be his friend. I don't understand why these political figures and these politicians can't say something like that. I don't understand why they can't do it. So when I read this from The Guardian about the Epstein scandal, my first question is, if you have this information and it's credible information, why didn't you put it out when you were desperate to get Trump out of office? You would have released these. But now we're going to release these because, and it's a two-way sword, either we have now the Trump's DOJ has subpoenaed the Clintons to testify in the Epstein edition because they released these pictures of Trump, or it's vice versa. Either the Trump's DOJ said, we're going to go after the Clintons, and the Clintons said, not so fast, we're going to release ours because everybody's guilty. And that's kind of the bigger story here. But as the Clintons are being subpoenaed, that's when it brings me back to the Nicholas Tartagilone story. And it's not just me that thought about it, because it is resurfaced in several live viral videos, which I'm going to show you one of them, because it was so funny, because obviously I know the Tartagilone story inside and out. I covered it on Night Shift Top Secret Information podcast that I was with Conservative Anthony. These are things that I'm studied up on. These are things that I'm studied up on. And so when you guys send me this, it makes me one proud of you. You fuckers, FAWKERSs, you fuckers. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention and following the breadcrumbs. That's what the show's all about. Being objective, right? We can't close our mind to any possibility. I encourage you to put things into percentages. What is the percent that this could be true? Not, this is the truth and I'm going to stand by it. I like to say we're at 87%. We still got to prove the 15. We still got to prove the 14%, whatever it is. 10% chance this is real, not real. If that makes sense. Kiefer says, what happened? No, nobody went after the terrorist whisperer. Terrorist whisperer's issues are his own issues. If you want more information on that, you can watch the Drinking Bros episode. They did a whole thing. They did two episodes where the terrorist whisperer is. Now I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I'm not here to bring anybody down, to bring myself up. Okay, I'm just not here to do that. I'm not here to shed anybody else's business. I don't really care. There's enough pie at the table for everybody to eat. However, if somebody is being like that, I cannot be around them. And there's too many allegations, and there's just too many things. And I've been around him too much to see that like I said, I 51% believe the other people. And I'm not going to be around that. So that's that on that. So let me go back through this. The letters written to Epstein by a number of high-profile individuals were reportedly compiled as a birthday gift for Epstein's 63rd birthday in 2016. Go back to the Denny Perkins story. These deviants do stupid shit like that. Remember the cum-filled cupcakes given out to the classmates in the school by Denny Perkins's disgusting wife. Right? These deviants do shit. So letters written to Epstein by a number of high-profile individuals reportedly compiled as a birthday gift. I can see them in their deviant ways writing nasty letters or whatever. Their publication comes amid intense speculation around Donald Trump's ties to Epstein. Here we go. Why now? Why now? After you've done everything you could possibly do to keep this guy out of why now do you why now does all of a sudden Trump have ties to Epstein, but at the same time, Bill and Hillary Clinton are being subpoenaed for the Epstein things? Okay. Who was found dead in New York jail in 2019. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. In one letter, former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and his wife wrote, "There is no limit to your curiosity." Oh, I don't know. Here's another quote. "You are like a closed book to many of them, but you know everything about everyone," they wrote. "You are a collector of people." What do you think that means? You're a collector of people. You're not stupid. You fuckers aren't stupid. You know what that means. How do you collect a person? How do you have somebody in your pocket? I have a network. I have a network of people, but my network of people, my Jason Kiefers from One More and I'm Out of Here, my Cameron Santana's, my Abby Ellsworth, my Josh Deadleg, my Jonathan Bates. I have a network of friends to get shit done. The only way I can have collected them is if I have them on a payroll that makes it where they cannot quit me, which that's not true. So the only other way that I could own somebody is to have blackmail, to have bribery. And that's going to play really big into this Nicholas Tartagilone story that I'm about to drop on you in about 7 minutes. I just want to get through this Epstein scandal because this all plays a part. I have to give you the backstory. Here's another quote. "May you enjoy long and healthy life, and may all of us, your friends, enjoy your table for many more years to come." And a letter from filmmaker Woody Allen, who, by the way, is one of the biggest pieces of shit on this planet. If Woody Allen was going to make a film for me and pay me $100 million, I would tell him to go get fucked in a fiery furnace. Woody Allen being the one that married his daughter, Soon-Yi. You know what I mean? So he adopted a girl at, I believe, what was it, like five years old? 5 years old and then married her when she turned 18. If that's not fucked up, if that doesn't show you that Hollywood has a very deviant side, no, Woody Allen. Not Woody Harrelson. Woody Allen. This guy even looks like a creeper. He looks like all the creeper. Matter of fact, he wears those same creeper glasses that all the Democrats are wearing right now. All the weirdos are wearing those same weirdo glasses. It's like the septum ring, the mental illness nose trinket, as I call it. I'm not saying that 100% of people that have that suffer from mental illness, but I'm telling you 99% do. Very gross. Adopted daughter divorces his wife and marries her. There's like I think, I don't even know. Like there's over a 30-year difference in age. I'm way more than that. I don't even know what the difference in age is of Woody Allen and Sun Yi. But in not having Josh here to fact check me, you can look it up yourself. So anytime that Woody Allen has something to say, just know that Woody Allen married his adopted daughter that he adopted at the age of 5 and married when she turned 18. In a letter from filmmaker Woody Allen, Allen reminisced about Epstein's dinner parties at his Upper East Side townhouse and described the gatherings as always interesting. What could be more interesting to a man who fucks his daughter? He noted that the parties included politicians, scientists, teachers, magicians, comedians, intellectuals, journalists, and royalty. Allen also described the dinners as well served. I say well served often. It's by some professional houseman and just as often by several young women who he said reminded him of Castle Dracula, where Lugosi had 3 young female vampires who service the place. When you have Woody Allen calling your dinner party and your house and the service within your house like that of Castle Dracula, there's some sketchy shit going on. Again, this is a man, let's not forget, that fucks his adopted daughter. Other letter writers reportedly included billionaire media mogul Mortimer Zuckerman, Noam Chomsky, and his wife, Yoichi Ito, the former head of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT Media Lab physicist Lawrence M. Krauss, Harvard biologist and mathematician Martin Nowak. Zuckerman and Nowak did not respond to requests for comment from the Times. Barak reportedly declined to comment, and Chomsky's wife responded on his behalf, also declining to comment. Krauss reportedly told the Times that he didn't recall the letter, but did attend several lunches with very interesting discussions with scientists, authors, and others at Epstein's house. In addition to the letters, the Times also published photos from inside Epstein's 7-story Manhattan mansion. In his office, the image shows a taxidermy tiger and reportedly show a green first edition copy of Lolita, the controversial 1955 novel about a middle-aged man's sexual obsession with and sexual abuse and rape of a 12-year-old girl, which the Times said was showcased. Come on, guys. I'm telling you, you're going to have to show me overwhelming evidence on the contrary, because all of the things that add up here are just diabolical. So let me jump over to this big subpoena, because this is the big news. This is all going to take down. This is all going to happen in October this year. Clinton subpoenaed to testify in congressional Epstein. This is from the BBC. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary are among high-profile figures to be sent to legal summonses from a congressional committee investigating the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Republican James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, issued the subpoenas to the Clintons and 8 other individuals. Now, before you get excited, everybody, this isn't the first time the Clintons have ever been subpoenaed for anything. And did they tell the truth on the stand? Or did they burn all the evidence? Or did they, I did not have sexual relations with that woman? You know what I mean? Are we really counting on the Clintons to be honest for once? Remember the story about the boys on the tracks, the cocaine, the hooker, everybody that died in that, which kind of like led to the whole Clinton kill list theory. Again, theory. Go read the book, though. I really encourage. I think the book was written in like 1993. So this was before all you conspiracy Looney Tunes became Looney Tunes, red pilled. This is like in the 1990s when that wasn't as cool. And it's a story about the boys on the tracks that directly ties back in several different ways to the Clinton family. Go read the book. The committee is seeking information about Epstein's history after President Donald Trump's administration decided against releasing more federal files on the dead financier. That decision sparked outrage among Trump supporters and some Democrats who refused to accept the Justice Department's statement that there was no incriminating client list in the Epstein file. Now, you got to stay with me here. I'm about to switch gears. Hold on for just a second. Let's play the timeline of events really quick. We're going to bring down the Epstein trial. We're going to bring down the Epstein list. We're going to go after Epstein. We're going to do this. We're going to get one of the biggest podcasters that has a very thorough investigative background, Dan Bongino, to come in here and clean house. We've got another FBI director who's really on board with this, and we're going to bring this all down. The timeline, right? And then all of a sudden we have this very odd, we played it on here, this very odd video where he's like, there's nothing to see. Dan Bongino said, nothing to see. Didn't commit suicide. He committed suicide. Nothing to see here. Completely out of character for Bongino. Completely out of character. It was almost like he was so out of character that he was trying to tell you in a very symbolic way that he is lying to you right now. It was that out of character. I've been listening to him for years and years and years and years, and that was 100% out of character for me. So then we have that. Then all of a sudden, we now have these letters that have resurfaced, and now we have the Bill and Hillary Clinton thing. So what's going on? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if Trump's trying to cover his own ass and he's trying to burn it all down. I don't know if Trump and the Clintons are going to, my guess would be that to burn it down, you have to burn them all down. And I think it is everybody. I think there was a lot of people that got caught up in these parties, got caught up in the moment, and got caught up in blackmail one way or the other. And if you've ever been to Sear, you get caught in one kind of a blackmail, even if it wasn't true, you lose faith. Read the book 5 Years to Freedom. Let me just explain losing faith. Let's say you're in a POW scenario and you are told that you are going to sign a paper that says that you're going to give information that happened more than 48 hours ago, that the military has already changed their plan. You already know that the military changed their plan. You know that this isn't mission essential information, but if you give just any kind of information, you're going to sign a document and that they're going to protect your family. And all you got to do is sign this document that says you did it. And so you're like, fuck, that seems fair. Don't fuck with my family. I tell you this little speech and I give it to you and then I sign it. But little I know back behind me is like a graphic that says something totally different. And they dub my voice into Arabic. And it's basically me giving away military strategy and me signing. It makes it look like that I've signed my allegiance to them, and that I swear on my heart that what I've said is true. But the narration is, I swear my allegiance to the Taliban. And then they take that and they move you to another camp, and they take that video and they show it to everybody in the camp that you just left, and everybody in that camp thinks that you're a huge piece of shit. And then the rumors catch wind months and months down the road as people filter in and out of these camps that you are a piece of shit, that you saw your allegiance, that we saw the video that you swore your allegiance. And now you know that everybody hates you, and it's not worth living anymore. Nobody's going to believe you. You've seen the video. And so you join the other side, or you don't go home because you can't go home. You're too ashamed. You're too embarrassed. And so you stay in Vietnam, or you stay in wherever you've been captured, and you become, you just try to make do with where you're at. And you know that they don't like you and that your friends don't like you, but you can't go home. And I think there's going to be a lot of that type of blackmail. A lot of, hey, this girl is 18 and she thinks you're cute. You get your jollies off, and then, oh, joke's on you, bitch. She's 15. And we have the whole thing on video. Don't fuck up. Don't you fuck up. We have this over you for the rest of your life. Things like that. I don't know. I'm just saying, this is a very, very interesting case. And I think you're going to have to take each person and you're going to take their story, and they're going to have to go to trial before you can pass judgment on how these people got onto the list and how they didn't. Let's switch gears. This is the video that you all sent me. You sent it to me. I enjoyed it. And it's strange because like 8 of you sent it to me. I think a total of 8 people sent me this exact video. And I don't know, it's because you heard previous podcasts I've done on Nicholas Tartagilone and you're like, hey, he's back in the news. I don't know why. I don't know why you sent it to me, but I felt like, why not? Why not bring this back up and retell the story just in case? Because this podcast is newer. Fox News is only about a year old. I would have done this on the Failure to Stop or Night Shift TSI. I can't remember.
Underestimate the butterfly effect of a tiny public access show in upstate New York. Clay Tiffany was an independent journalist and the fearless host of Dirge for the Charlatans. Notorious for being a thorn in the side of local officials and law enforcement, Clay Tiffany would probe into corrupt politicians and dirty cops, then broadcast his findings on his public access show. But with this fame came enemies in powerful places. One being Briarcliff police officer slash bodybuilder Nicholas Tartaglione, who in 1997 pulled Clay Tiffany over, warned him to stop looking into the police department, said he has ties with the mob, then physically assaulted the TV host. Obviously, this led Clay to delve further into the cop, and so began a long-standing feud between the two. Tiffany dug into his past and found that Tartaglione had a history of assault in his time as a police officer. Clay Tiffany would slam him and the BPD on Dirge for the Charlatans, and in retaliation, Tartaglione would find him and beat him up. This happens at least 4 times, with the last confrontation putting Clay in the hospital. He would host the next episode from his hospital bed. Clay sued the police department, winning a big settlement, but Tartaglione was never charged or found guilty of a crime. Until this story goes somewhere I never could have predicted. Clay Tiffany passed away in March 2015 of natural causes, and the following year, Nicholas Tartaglione was arrested after killing 4 men over stolen drug money and burying them in a mass grave in the woods. Tartaglione, now facing a life sentence, has been behind bars since his arrest, where in 2019, he was the last person to share a prison cell with Jeffery Epstein. Never underestimate.
So that's the video you guys all sent me. By the way, if you want to follow that guy's Instagram, it's Joey Engelman, JoeyEngelman, Joey Engelman. He's got a blue check mark. Joey Engelman. That is a post from Joey Engelman. Now this story is crazy, and this is one of the bigger things of this story is bigger to me because this was one of the things where it's like this is what makes me 87%. Now everything that he said in that short documentary, which masterful job, by the way, he did a masterful job breaking all the information that really there's a 2-hour documentary on YouTube, and I think it's called like New York Crime or something like that. You can look up Nicholas Tartagilone. It's called like New York Crime or something like that. It's an hour-ish long documentary about this whole thing. And so this guy takes, what could be a 2-hour documentary, to be honest with you. If you're into true crime, this would be a phenomenal, really good true crime breakdown. I'm sure somebody's already had to have done it because it's got all the characters. It's got corrupt police, it's got mob, it's got drug cartels, it's got murder, it's got conspiracy. I mean, the Nicholas Tartaglione story has everything that a true crime sleuth would just lose it over. They would really love this. So let me just give you the kind of more of like the official take on this thing. Clay Tiffany, for those of you who don't know, had a kind of like I want to say like an Alex Jones style public access TV show where he tried to expose corruption. This is a blog entry that I pulled from Joanna Schwartz. It kind of talks about Clay Tiffany, and this all comes from Briarcliff Manor. You can go and read her blog about it. But he's not a small guy, but he had a public access TV show, of course, like you saw in that little documentary. And he originally was going after a female judge in New York. And this leads to him getting pulled over by Nick Tartaglione. And then Nick Tartaglione ends up arresting him and roughing him up while he arrests him. And so Clay gets released from jail and goes right back on his show. And he's like, dude, this guy slammed me into a police car. He handcuffed me. And he says on his show that Tartagilone says, I'm connected with the mob. I can have you taken care of anytime I want. So feeling threatened, Tiffany got out of his car and he was afraid of Tartagilone because of these threats. And that's when, he gets roughed up and taken into custody for, I'm guessing, like resist, delay, and obstruct. Now, before we get to that far in the story, Tartagilone had already, this was his fourth police department. This is his fourth police department. This guy had to resign from multiple agencies. This isn't like fake news or anything like this. This really happened. This is his fourth agency. And so it goes back and forth with Clay multiple times. Clay ends up going back on his show. Clay goes to the precinct to do another video. He gets arrested just outside of the precinct. He gets roughed up and then he gets hospitalized with broken bones. Broken ribs, broken nose, broken orbital bone. I mean, he gets the absolute shit beat out of him. Then he gets approached by Tartagilone when he's swimming in the Hudson. And he says, one day you're going to get out of that water and I'm going to be waiting for you. And that happens. And he gets the absolute shit kicked out of him again, hospitalized again. At this time, Tartagilone, I believe, gets arrested and gets sued on this one. And there was a bunch of lawsuits out. At the end of the day, he's acquitted of the charges. He gets a not guilty. Tartagilone gets not guilty, but the police department's like, yeah, you might have, it's like DUI. Like you might have beat the process. That doesn't mean you weren't drunk driving. You know what I mean? Just because you got off on a technicality or they didn't cross the eye, it doesn't mean that you weren't drunk and driving. And so it looks like the department was like, just because you got off of beating this guy's ass, it doesn't mean that we know that you beat this guy's ass. And so they fire him. Well, he resigns before they can fire him. And it gets crazy because after that, Tartagilone, he goes back and forth, tries to sue Clay Tiffany, and this whole thing goes back and forth. And then all of a sudden, he buys this piece of property and he starts a marijuana grow operation. Tartagilone does. And he starts growing a weed, and then one of these Hispanics come over to his house, and it gets wild from here. And this guy's name is Luna, by the way. And so as the story goes, Luna comes to his house and explains to him, his name is Mario Santos Luna. And Mario is like, dude, you've got male and female marijuana plants growing together. This shit's never going to work. Like, you can't do that. And so Luna convinces him to get into selling cocaine. Now, before we get here, in the interim, before he started the marijuana grow operation, Tartagilone was a muscle meathead. And he was known for selling PEDs, steroids to lots of other people in these gyms. And so now he's got two big meathead friends that he runs with, and they sell and they hustle steroids, and they're known for that. Lots of witnesses. You're like, yeah. I actually, through a third party, know a person that says that he went to the same gym as this guy. Kind of crazy. And that he was definitely known for this. It's like when we did the Denny Perkins case, and a detective from New Orleans actually came up and was to my distillery and was like, I heard your episode on Denny Perkins, and I worked with the guy. It was great to hear his side of the story. It's really cool. But let's get back to the story in short here. And by the way, go watch those documentaries or read the blogs. So Tartagilone and his meathead buddies, they start trying to get into this grow operation, or at least Tartagilone gets into the marijuana grow operation. It's not really working out for him. And Luna is like, hey, we should do some cocaine shit. And so he locks down a cocaine deal in Texas and in Florida. And he invests $200,000 into this. And so they start to move the drugs between. And then it goes south, and Santos disappears to Mexico. And Tartaglione's out of $200,000. So Tartaglione sends some meatheads, or he sends some friends down to Mexico to find Santos. And they find him. And they come up with this story about he could basically come and work this thing off on the farm with Tartaglione. That works off the $200,000. And so he comes up there with his 3 siblings. And there is no deal. There's no working it off. Tartaglione and his meathead friends are at this closed bar, very mob-like scene. And they tie everybody up and they zip tie the Santos's neck until he dies. It's tighten the neck until he dies. And then he shoots execution style his 3 siblings and buries them in a shallow grave. In 2015, keep up with the timeline, he's finally caught for all these crimes. By 2018, he's moved into a prison where he's already had the shit kicked out of him. And by the way, the Department of Justice was seeking the death penalty for his murders. I think he was linked to like 11 overall murders that he facilitated. If I can remember the story completely correct. So the bodies were recovered, on December 2016, 8 months after the 4 were killed in Otisville, about 70 miles north of Manhattan. Tartaglione gained further notoriety as former cellmate. Well, I'm gonna get there. So he strangled the one guy, execution the other 3 in 2016. Again, so he was medically retired at this point, so they call him a retired police officer. The judge in this case described Tartaglione as a monster. The 56-year-old was convicted in July of 2023, nearly 4 years after he briefly was a cellmate with Jeffrey Epstein, the notorious sexual predator. The bodies were recovered in December of 2016, about 8 months after the 4 men, Martin Luna, Miguel Luna, Urbano Santiago, and Hector Gutierrez, were killed in Otisville, about 70 miles north of Manhattan. So this is coming from Channel 4 in New York. By the way, there's a big CNN story on it as well. But here's where it gets crazier. While he's in jail from 2016 up until 2023, he was in prison. He gets the shit kicked out of him. Tartaglione does. She gets hospitalized. Has reconstructive surgery on his face. That's how bad he got the shit kicked out of him. He then gets put into a cell with Epstein a week prior before Epstein killed himself. And while he's in a cell with Epstein, he finds Epstein unconscious, nearly dead with bruising around his neck. And he tells everybody that he must have committed suicide. And almost immediately his lawyers and everybody goes in there to try to clear his name. And then he's kind of moved and all the charges are dropped, even though there were no cameras and everything wasn't working in the cell. But he was the last person with Epstein, and then Epstein was found like that. So then they move Epstein to another block. And remember, at this point, if he really tried to commit suicide, they would have put him on suicide watch, which would have put him in a cell where you have somebody watching you 24 hours, 7 days a week. Instead, they don't. They put him into more of a solitary confinement. And again, the judge, the corrections officers fall asleep. They don't do their hourly checks. One is caught on Amazon. We remember all of the weird things that happen on that. There's a 5-minute missing section or a 1-minute missing section of the tape. Blah, 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 blah. We all know all of the details that are just, it's almost like a Big Bang Theory, how all these pieces just fall into place here. Let me read this from NBC News. Epstein, 66, died last Saturday in an apparent suicide inside his cell in a special housing unit where he was supposed to be checked every 30 minutes, but he wasn't. Right? The death has brought on increased scrutiny on the federal prison system, with lawmakers demanding answers on how high-profile inmate facing up to 45 years in prison could be left alone after a previous incident that raised questions about his emotional state. The FBI and Justice Department Officer of Inspector General are investigating the circumstances into his death at the MCC. One open question, among others, is whether the investigation referenced in your letter will include the incident at MCV involving Epstein on July 23rd, and that was the reference in the incident that happened with Nicholas Tartagilone. But you see how they leave Tartaglione they leave his name out of all of these incidents as if they don't want you to know and they don't want you to look up who Tartaglione is. Now, I will say this. They didn't know if Tartaglione beat Epstein or Epstein killed himself or tried to kill himself. The reports at the time was Epstein said he did not try to kill himself, that he was assaulted. You have a guy in 2018 that's in prison that the Department of Justice was seeking the death penalty for. He's all of a sudden put in a room with Epstein, and then Epstein is found nearly dead. But they didn't know if it was suicide or assault. But I'll tell you this. If the jail staff thought it was really a suicide attempt, they would have put him on suicide watch, not in solitary confinement. So it almost looks like this was more of an assault with no cooperating witnesses. And then they just decided, the news decided for you, that Nicholas Tartaglione's name wasn't important enough to add to the details of this case. Taglione did not get the death sentence. He did not get the death penalty. In 2024, he gave 4 life sentences. We have a man who's a corrupt cop. Crime begats crime. Remember that. He's a corrupt cop. And he doesn't get away so much at one department. He goes to another department, tries a little more, and he keeps working his way through 4 departments to where he is now physically assaulting a journalist. That all started when a journalist was trying to uncover a judge. That's when this is all started. It's almost as if this judge knew a guy that was connected to the mob that could do some dirty work. She was a female judge. It's almost as if that she had a guy. And this guy did all the things that she wanted to do. And somehow, even after retiring, has $200,000 laying around to invest in a cocaine operation. But of course, it fucks him over and he gets in prison because he's an idiot. But now we have a guy who's been caught with murder times 4, 11 total murder sentences that he's connected to some way or another, that the DOJ is seeking a death penalty for, that ends up getting his ass whooped months before Epstein, just weeks before he ends up in a cell with Epstein. And he's serving 4 life sentences. There's no better guy that you would have, that you could own a person, as the letters we saw to Epstein were, that you could own somebody. You have everything on him. What's he have to lose? You're either going to kill him viciously in prison or have him killed viciously in prison, or he does what you need him to do. I'm going to go ahead and say 87% chance. Does that make me crazy? Let me know in the chance. Does it make me crazy? I encourage you to seek out all the information on the Nicholas Tartaglione story because I'm only uncovering the surface. It's a more wild story than you would think. I'm reading you the reports. I'm reading you what CNN and but if you really go into these blogs and these deeper studies and these interviews of people who have interviewed people, that this guy is like 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that this dude is not in the mob and working for the mob. Tartaglione is a meathead steroid freak that is the muscle man for the mob. And he is the last person and the first person. He's the last person to be seen with Epstein alive in a cellmate, or the last cellmate to be seen with Epstein alive. Last person he came in contact with outside of law enforcement. And he was the first person that the FBI interviewed. And of course, his interview was full of no comments and his attorney took over the way. But I don't want you to forget about the Nicholas Tartaglione story, because I feel like it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. The Nicholas Tartaglione story, it really ramps up the whole Epstein conspiracy theory, of the Clinton theories, of whoever theories. Might not be the Clintons, could be somebody else rich and famous on the list. But it all holds weight, does it not? I don't know. Just my perspective. It's something I've enjoyed talking about over the years You can go back. There's a lot of other podcasts. Might even get our true crime team to do a whole deep dive breakdown on Tartagilone in story form, not in news form. But anyway, as I say, guys, different news for today because of the whole Pig Latin thing. So I really wanted to narrow down on something and give you something of substance to think about why we see this the Bill Clinton saga play out, as we see these new notes and pictures being released. Again, I feel like if people had all this stuff, it would have been released a long time ago. The only reason it wouldn't be released is if they were the ones that were going to be implemented because of it. Because if they were not in any trouble, they would have released those things to keep Trump out. That's where I think this is going. I think that if they could have stuff on Trump, but they could never give it to you because it would make them look, they would suffer the same fate. They would burn down with them. So I tend to think that there are things that are questionable that Trump can probably articulate, and that's why he's choosing to put these out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Or he's choosing to send the Clintons on subpoena at the end of the day, or it could just be all smoke and mirrors, letting us lead us on to think that they're trying to do something because of all the social media backlash. That's a possibility too. They're just wheeling us along. At the end of the day, I don't think the Clintons would ever be honest in any situation, any form. And also, I believe that if I was married to Hillary Clinton, I would fuck just about anything else. Probably to include dudes. I might be a little bit gay if Hillary Clinton was my wife. I'm just not that attracted to the woman. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all of this. At the end of the day, I don't think anybody tells the truth in this whole matter, but you should know in your own heart, whatever percent you give this, that the Nicholas Tartagilone story is 100% real story. And it really happened. He really did murder 4 people. He really did beat the shit out of a journalist multiple times. That really happened. He really sold steroids. He really sold marijuana. He really sold cocaine. And he really had enough sense to send somebody to Mexico to find the guy that robbed him of $200,000 years later and to coerce them back to New York for a job that didn't exist, only to vindictively murder him. This is a diabolical dude that knows too much on how to do shit like this. It's almost like it's what movies are made of. It's almost like Hollywood knows these stories and then makes movies about them. Don't forget about this Epstein stuff. Do not forget about the Nicholas Tartagilone story and what it means for this case. Guys, you can follow me on social media, Eric Tanzi Official. You can follow us on Fox News. A lot coming down the pipeline. Andy Stumpf next week on the Cleared Hot podcast. I'm super excited. I'll be flying to Montana with Mandatory Fun Day. I'm very excited about all of that. And so, and then I have a golf tournament with AJ Buckley from the TV series SEAL Team that's coming up, the big book release. There will be a massive party in my town of Clayton, North Carolina on Saturday, the Saturday after my book launch. So I believe that's the 31st. Maybe it's the 30th, whatever that Saturday is, 30th or 31st of August of this month will be a huge party all day. I think it starts at like 2 in the afternoon and goes all the way till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. There'll be a book signing. There'll be some sign-up comedy. There'll be some live music. There'll be drinks and everything else. If you want to come to that party, you have to DM me. It's the only way you're going to get the address. And it's the only way, and it's free. Yeah, and then the drinks are free. You have to buy your own drinks because it's at an establishment. But to attend it is free. But if you're going to attend it, you need to DM me personally, and then I will send you where this is going to be and everything. Because I can't just throw it out there for the world on this podcast. I don't want that. I want to know at least who's coming. So if you would DM me that you want to come, you would fly into Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll tell you that. And you would fly in on that Saturday. So if you want to be there for the book signing, but we will have another one in Cincinnati. I'm trying to get something booked up in San Antonio, definitely Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to have one. And I would really like to get over to California as well. So the book tour is going to take us all around. We're going to have a great time. And so if you can't catch me here, you will catch me somewhere. I'm sure you will have opportunities. I think Austin will be in Austin, San Antonio for the book tour, Cincinnati, possibly Memphis Jacksonville for sure. Probably Clearwater, somewhere down there. But we'll see. Stay tuned. But until then, please go and pre-order the book. We're sitting at number 22 in law enforcement books. We're sitting top 80,000 on Amazon right now. Book hasn't even come out yet. I want to make the New York Times bestseller list. If you have not pre-ordered the book or the audiobook, please do so. And if you still want a signed and autographed bookmark, you can DM me. And I'm coming down to the end of that because I'm running out of, I've already sent out the ones of everybody, but like I have a few left over. So I have a few. So if you want to DM me that you still want to get on this signed bookmarker, just DM me, show me that you purchased the book or the audio book, and I will put that in the mail for you as well. Guys, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Stay tuned. This is going to be a wild ride. Guns up, giddy up. Until next time, everybody. Cheers.